My name is Hannah Young, and this is my video presentation on the placenta. So first of all, I didn't have like a model placenta, so I just took the suggestion of making one, which was actually really fun, craft time. I was able to take a break from studying for a little bit. But I also was laughing the whole time because I literally used saran wrap and paper plates. I used some yarn and some tape. I just used what I had. So I definitely have a placenta model on my list of things I need to get because I don't think this is going to hold up for very long, but it will work for now. So anyways, to continue, the placenta is the thing that supports the baby through pregnancy. It facilitates growth of the baby and it facilitates circulation between maternal and fetal blood. It's considered an organ of the body, an actual organ, which I think is really awesome, by about week 14 of pregnancy. At that time, it takes over producing progesterone and estrogen from the corpus luteum, which has produced these hormones up till this point. And these hormones sustain pregnancy. So the placenta expands this way across the uterine wall until about week 20. And at that time, it's about 20 centimeters across. So at term, usually a placenta is about 20 centimeters across, and then it's about 2.5 centimeters thick. About dinner plate size. It can vary in size. A good way to think of it is that the placenta grows in relation to the baby. And so if you have a small baby, you'll probably have a small placenta. If you have a big baby, you'll probably have a big placenta. But in addition to this, some maternal health factors can influence how the placenta matures. So like if a mother smokes throughout her pregnancy, chances are that the placenta will be smaller in those cases. So like I was saying, all of the circulation of blood happens within the placenta. And it's really amazing. I didn't fully understand the process of how maternal and fetal blood stay separate until I was doing the reading for this class. But the maternal blood comes in through the arteries into these spaces in the placenta called villus spaces, and they fill up, they kind of like pool into these spaces. And then the baby's blood vessels grow up into these spaces, and they pick up the oxygen and the nutrients that they need by way of diffusion and carry it back to the baby, and they bring waste and carbon dioxide to the maternal blood where it diffuses across just like 3 or 4 layers of tissue into the maternal blood. But the maternal blood and the baby blood stay separate. And a big factor and importance for this separation of the blood is in cases where like the mother is Rh negative and the baby is Rh positive, you don't want the blood to mix in those cases. So there's a couple different sides of the placenta that you should be aware of. It's important to kind of orient yourself to those two sides. So there's the parental side of the placenta, and this is the side that's called the decidua bacillus, and it's the side that implants into the uterus. It has kind of a red, meaty-like appearance, and it's made up of like 15 or 20 sections, so to speak, called cotyledons. They're kind of honeycomb shaped, and it's within these sections that those villus spaces I was talking about form, and it's where the diffusion of blood happens. So there's the parental side, and then the fetal side. And the fetal side is covered in a substance that I'll go over in a minute called amnion. And it's kind of shiny and grayish, and then it's covered in the fetal blood vessels that kind of stretch across the placenta, and they kind of look like branches on a tree. It's really beautiful, actually. And 2 reasons to be aware of the 2 sides of the placenta are because, one, if the parental or maternal side of the placenta presents first when it's being birthed, there's some thought that it could be associated with a higher risk of the parent bleeding postpartum. So it's just something to note and be aware of and really watch for. And then the second thing is when you're inspecting the placenta after it's been born, for any retained fragments in the uterus, there's different things to watch for on the parental side and the fetal side. And so again, just kind of being aware of those two sides is important. So there's a couple different tissues that I will note. The chorion is the tissue that is continuous with the placenta, and it extends out from the placenta and it lines the inside of the uterus. And then the amnion, like I was mentioning, it covers the fetal side of the placenta, but it also is continuous with the cord, with the umbilical cord, and it extends out from the umbilical cord, and it encases the baby in the amniotic fluid in the amniotic sac. It's what forms that sac. The umbilical cord, like I was mentioning, it's covered in amnion, and it's filled with a substance called Wharton's jelly. And then it's made up of three blood vessels. There's one vein, and then there's two arteries that carry blood to and from the baby to the placenta. It's usually about 1 or 2 centimeters in diameter and about 50-ish centimeters long. If it's less than 40 centimeters, it's considered a short cord, but they can get really, really long. And it's usually, the cord is usually formed about the 5th week of pregnancy, somewhere in there. The vessels, the arteries, and the vein that extend from the umbilical cord into the placenta and across the placenta, they, like I was saying, they carry blood to and from the baby to the placenta. And something that I feel is important to note is that when we're talking about cord clamping, it's important that we as birth workers are not saying that this is cord blood and that's why we're delaying the cord clamping, but that this is actually baby blood that's in the cord and in the placenta. And the reason you delay that cord clamping is because all the blood that's in the placenta is part of the fetal circulation. And so waiting for that blood to fully move through the cord into the baby after the baby has been birthed is important to give the baby the best start in life. Anyway, so that's my presentation. Hopefully I covered everything, and thank you for watching.